we really appreciate and love these solidarity visits. And today, more than ever, solidarity is becoming costly. And I say that solidarity by definition is costly. So I really appreciate that, because not many people are willing to pay the cost. And if this war has taught us anything, is that many who we thought are our friends, including many who became our friends through Sabi, we concluded later that they are not really friends. They were not willing to go with us. Really, this war has uncovered so many masses. It's unbelievable. Uncovered the hypocrisy of so many around the world. My name is Munther. I don't know what you know about me. I am a pastor, a theologian, and an activist. Father of 2 children, Karam and Zaid. This is my hometown, Beit Sahour. My main post is in the church in Bethlehem, which is very close to here, but this church also is a smaller congregation. They have no pastor, so I pastor this church as well. But we have a big school and big scouts group, and so I divide my time between the 2 congregations and my work at the Bible College in advocacy and theology and writing and speaking. As I was listening to you, I was wondering what can I add to your expertise in these topics, whether it's the issue of apartheid or genocide, or even before that, apartheid. And as I said, if this war has taught us anything, is that, many presuppositions we had, or some perceived notions about reality, truth, law, rights, were completely banished. I think of the whole issue of the discussion on apartheid, but also genocide. Some of you said they are scholars in genocide. How many more scholars in genocide do we need to tell us that what's happening in Gaza is a genocide until the world decides it's a genocide? They decided so quickly and even relied on the ICJ when it was in Sudan. But here, it's different. And it's different, it's not just because of racism towards Arabs and Palestinians and Muslims. It's different because Israel is part of the empire. Israel is part of the colonial matrix. And I've been arguing for a while now that 3 elements met together and enabled this genocide in Gaza. These 3 elements are coloniality, racism, and religion, unfortunately. Theology. Coloniality. Israel is good for... Israel serves the interest of the empire, of both the United States and the UK. And it's not as if they're hiding it. American politicians are very clear. Israel is an ally. What does that mean, Israel is an ally? Is it an ally because Israel believes in the same ideas of human rights and democracy and freedom? Come on. No one can fool the world anymore with these. We were never fooled by this. Many were. But I think everyone knows now this is all BS. I'm sorry. Israel is an ally because it serves the best interest of the United States. The United States foreign policy is dictated by interest. And if Israel tells them this is for the best interest, well, they do it. If they said, let's invade Syria, they do it. If they say, let's invade Iraq, they'll do it. And I think Biden said it best. Biden says, I'm a Zionist. He says, if Israel did not create, we would have to create it. What does that mean? We need a base in the Middle East to control the area, the region. So the United States looks at as Israel as an extension. It serves their empire. This is why they support it. It's not because, the ideals and by the way, if I was a Jew, I would be offended by that, because once Israel no longer serves the interest of the United States, believe me, America will ditch it. We know this, okay? Iraq was at a certain point an ally, and then they invaded Iraq. So this is how empires function. And that's why, more than ever, we have to insist, if we support Palestinian rights, on this component of the struggle, that we do not have a conflict here. I plead with you, fight with us the use of the term the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. There is no conflict. We're talking about Israel as a settler colonial entity. They're functioning as a settler colonial entity. They continue to expand their territories. I mean, Israel has never divided its territories. They just went into Syria and they're fine with it. They want to expand. You know, Trump granted them the Golan Heights, and now they went even beyond. They're openly talking now about taking parts from Jordan. We know annexation is coming. It's already a reality next year for sure, but now it's a reality next year. Israel continues to expand because it's a settler. This is how, Zionism by definition is a settler colonial entity creating a homeland for the Jewish people in Palestine. Palestine was left empty. Zionism is the creation of a Jewish state of Palestine. Zionism is not seeking refuge in Palestine. Jews did not come here to seek refuge. They came here to create a nation state on someone else's land. By definition, this means this necessitates the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. They did it at stages. They're doing it at stages. 1948, then gradually, and now they're doing it again. So this is by definition what the reality is. We forget this. We treat it as a conflict between two entities. So it's not. And this is the reason why Israel can commit a genocide in front of the whole world, broadcast it live. Even the Israeli soldiers are broadcasting it live. They're not even trying to hide their actions. Israeli professors casually now talk about the genocide and the ethnic cleansing of Gaza. It's what we're doing. And the decision makers and the superpowers have still, they resist calling it a genocide. In fact, they tell us we're anti-Semites for suggesting it is a genocide. In other words, the ICJ, and now they're banning, the Congress had just moved with a resolution to sanction the ICJ. Amnesty International, the United Nations reports, all the international law does not apply on the colonized. That's it. The colonizers, the empire decides when and where the international law applies. And this is a very dangerous reality for the future of our world. Where are we heading as a humanity in which, we thought the Geneva Conventions actually solve things or, help put some standards. No, they did not. They are only lies in the hands of the empire to convince us they're righteous, they're better. But then now it was all revealed, and the hypocrisy was revealed for the whole world to see. And part of it is racism. They don't look at us as equal humans. It's very obvious the way they demonize us. The way they describe our land from the very beginning as a land without people, right? It's not that they didn't know that the land had people. But to them, to the empire, the Arabs, the Palestinians are not people of equal worth. We can create a homeland for someone else and their homeland. Doesn't matter. We'll move them. We'll create war and ethnic cleansing. We've done it before. It's nothing new, right? And if, of course, here's the whole thing, when the indigenous resist, they're called terrorists, because who dictates the terms? And look at what happened in the last 14 months now. Look at the terminology, and that's why we need also to update and challenge the domination of the terminology by the empire. So even our allies, for example, we thought they were our allies. They make statements, churches, that we thought have always been with the Palestinian rights. We call for the release of the Israeli hostages. What about the Palestinian hostages? Or they are prisoners, they're terrorists. So we need to resist this double standards in terminology. You know, one violence is terrorism, the other is self-defense or state violence. So we need to talk about state terrorism. We need to talk about Israel as a terrorist entity. We need to talk about the 11,000 Palestinian hostages kidnapped by Israel. And by the way, they are kidnapped in the middle of the night. Do you see how they treat them? We need to talk about the actual sexual abuse of Palestinian hostages. So Israel has managed, and its allies over the years, and this long, and at this, you know, you don't just wake up and decide Palestinians are less humans. You have to build it. You have to, you know, it's systematic. It's been happening for so long. And part of it is creating this self-righteous appeal of the empire, the Judeo-Christian tradition, you know, the values of the free and the, you know, in my previous book, I spent time studying the speech by Mike Pence when he came to the Israeli Knesset. Okay? You should study it. It's a textbook case in coloniality and racism. And in it, he says, we stand with Israel because your values are our values, your fight is our fight, your cause is our cause. We're united in this. Then he says, we stand with Israel because we believe in right over wrong, good over evil, liberty over tyranny. And with that, America and the US are the good, those who believe in freedom, those who believe in what's right. The Palestinians are those who believe in evil, what's wrong, and tyranny. And this is how you demonize an entire people, an entire population. And then isolating October 7th is all part of this, you know. How is October 7th explained in the Western world, in the media or in churches? And I don't condone violence. To me, I'm very clear. We've always been for non-violence, whether it's Sabir or Kairos Palestine or Palestinian theologians. And I'll be the first to admit that war crimes happened on October 7th. Palestinians killed civilians in their homes. That's wrong. But in the Western mind, Palestinians woke up on October 6th and decided, let's kill Jews because they're Jews. No one talks about the context. No one talks about the 16 years of siege before October 7th. No one talks about the fact that Gaza was described as hell on earth for children before October 7th. No one talks about the 76 years of oppression. No one talks about the fact that more than 75% of the people of Gaza are Nakba survivors. They were ethnically cleansed in 1948 and denied their rights to return or even compensation. And all of a sudden, the whole world wakes up and Palestinians commit violence. It's terrorism because they're evil, because we're inherently evil. This is how the world looks at us. And the media loves this. What's the first question Piers Morgan would ask everyone? Do you condemn October 7th? Why? What's behind that? Behind that is everything started on October 7th. Does anybody condemn the 76 years of oppression? Not a single church statement condemned it. They all mention, some very, one or two statements mention the context. But no one condemns the actions of Israel for 7th, but everyone condemns the actions of Palestinians on October 7th. No one condemns the response. But everyone condemns what happened on October 7th. Why? Because in the eyes of the Western world, in the eyes of the empire, there are two kinds of people. There is the civilized Israeli Zionists. Their violence is self-defense. Sometimes, maybe by the state, they kill Palestinians, civilians, but it's mainly because Hamas takes, civilians as, what's the word?
Human shield.
Human shields, And I do it and I get questions and they ask me, but Hamas takes Palestinians as human shields. I say, well, if in Kentucky a serial killer escapes hides in a school and kidnaps 100 children in a school, is it okay to bomb the whole school to kill a serial killer? Is this how you view Palestinians? It's okay to kill 200 Palestinians in one strike, which is what happened, just to kill one Hamas militant. Is this how you view us? We're not people to them. We're animals. I say, in Kentucky, you wouldn't bomb the school. Maybe if there were animals, you would bomb the schools. But even then, animal rights group would protest. But with Palestinians, it has been normalized that it's okay to bomb an entire neighborhood and kill 200 people, to kill terrorists, as they call it. Or, there was an incident during this war in which 4 Israeli hostages were released. Everyone celebrated. I'm happy when they're released. I don't want anybody to be a hostage. But when that happened, it was acknowledged, even Israel. More than 200 Palestinians were killed, mainly civilians. It's okay. Because we're not worthy of anything. We're not. This is the worst kind of racism. When our killing is perfectly fine to rescue one from the imperialist side. This is a tragedy what's happening. It's an empire, it's racism, and sadly it's religion, it's theology. Then I'll be the first to it, And that's why being very vocal. That's why we're being very vocal. Because of the role of the many in the faith community in this, who made God a racist, tribal God of war and vengeance. This is what they talked. And they called this war just. The killing of 16,000 children, the justice of God. God takes sides based on your ethnicity or nationality. We were told God gave the land to the Jewish people. So we function not on international law or reality. We function on the perceived reality of 2000 BC, when God promised this land to a certain individual named Abraham, and they tell us who the children of Abraham is. And by the way, it's the same people who lecture us on the separation of church and state. It's the same people who tell us we shouldn't impose religion on others. Right? It's the same people who believe in freedom of faith and conviction, who are imposing their religious beliefs on millions of Palestinians. And they tell us it doesn't matter if you've been living here for generations. It doesn't matter what the international law says. We believe that a Jew born in Brooklyn has more right to live in this land more than you. Why? The Bible tells me so. I mean, the hypocrisy involved in this, and the fact that they don't see it, is what shocks me. It's the same people who act as the civilized, to believe in separation of church and state, and everyone is free to believe what they want. When it comes to this part of the world, it's the complete opposite. God says the land belongs to the Jews. The word of God decides. So they echo the international law, human rights. This is the only context today in which a dispute is solved by relating to a religious text. This is the only context. In any other context, this would be called, and not just extremism or fundamentalism, but you're being back-minded and you're not living in the modern world. But here, it's those who believe they are the righteous, the civilized, who are doing this, imposing their beliefs. It's shocking to me. Does this mean religion is bad? Faith is bad? No. No, the opposite. I think this is where we need to speak as people of faith. That this cannot be, especially let me speak as a Christian. This has nothing to do with a God revealed in Jesus. This has nothing to do with the teachings of Jesus. With the golden rule, do to others what you want others to do to you. Or what Jesus taught in Matthew 25. You will be judged by God by how you treated the least of these. The prisoners, the hungry, the thirsty, basically, the way I understand that text is that Jesus is talking about victims of unjust structures. Because in a natural world, in a normal reality, if there is no evil, there should be no hungry, no thirsty, no prisoner, no stranger, right? But these are all victims of unjust structures that decide you don't belong, you're a stranger. That decide, we don't want to feed you. You have to earn it, maybe, or so on. And Jesus says, whatever you have done to the least of these, you have done to me. And that's why I see it. To us, when we said Jesus is in the rubble, to me, I was following what Jesus taught. I wasn't being radical. I think the others are the ones who misread scripture. I was just following what Jesus taught us. So I'm very committed to this, as people of faith, we need to speak up. Not in the traditional way. I'm so troubled by the Christian naive peacemaking that exists in our world today. I'm troubled because, there are many Christians who their response to a genocide is, let's pray for peace. And let's not take sides. Let's give for charity. Does God take sides? Did Jesus call things by name? Did the prophets call things by name? We cannot move step, if we want to create peace, if we're not willing to call things by name, call out those who commit war crimes, and implement justice so that we can bring peace. I'm all for peace. I still believe in the ultimate vision of the lion and the lamb, and the ultimate vision of even sharing this land, Palestinians and Israelis. I still believe. I'm naive, but this is the faith naivety. This is the hope, whatever. But this is so far from being a reality. Just we need to call things out. We need to speak truth to power. We need to call a genocide. The same way we need to call apartheid is apartheid. Everyone recognizes it as apartheid. Come on. Except for states, superpowers, and that everyone is afraid to implement that. Which again makes everything we've worked for as a humanity, that there are war crimes, crimes against humanity, all of that is now in jeopardy. All of that is now meaningless. The international law right now, all due respect, is becoming meaningless. If we don't speak up as people of faith, and honestly, if we, especially, and this is my point here for this group, in the global south and in context of marginalizations, don't rise up and take a leadership role. One of the most significant things that happened in this war was what South Africa did. This could not have been done by France or Belgium or, actually Germany sided with Israel on this. What South Africa did was so important, so significant, because it indicated to me, it pointed towards an important shift that we said. The global south and people, nations and people from context of previous marginalization and decolonized need to speak up and need to challenge this domination of the narrative and ethics and morality by the North, the white, by the empire. We have to resist this. And I meant, in Christmas, when my sermon went viral, which is something I've never expected. One of the things I said, and I meant it, I will never, ever allow an American or European lecture me on human rights again. I will never. And we need to do the same. We need to call out their hypocrisy. We need to come together and unite. Even if we feel powerless, I think it's our role to continue to make them uncomfortable. We cannot give in. We cannot accept the normalization of a genocide or apartheid and just say, well, America supports it, we cannot stop it. We have to continue speaking. And we have to bring into the discussion other contexts. We have to make it a global, because this is not just about Palestine. In Palestine, so many other global elements meet, as I said. Colonialism, empire, racism, and so on. So with you being a group of activists and experts from the global south mainly, I think this is profound. And we need more of these alliances. And even in the north, we need to look with it. That's why it's so important that a lot of relationships are developing now between Palestinians and African Americans, between Palestinians and indigenous communities in some places. As I said, with South Africa. All of this to me is important. This is the way forward, creating this global grassroots movements that challenge the domination of the empire, that resist the empire, or at least makes it uncomfortable, so that when people look back years from now, they say, was there anyone who stood for truth? And yeah, we say we did. Even if we did not succeed, at least I want to be remembered as being on the right side of history. But my faith allows me to continue to hope that ultimately justice will prevail. It's another thing we get from Jesus, that ultimately justice must prevail, and we can never ever lose hope in that. Thank you. I'll stop here. We'll pick up.